I just started my low buy period about a week ago, and I think I may have already messed up. I started this low buy period because I realized that I wasn't living life with intention when it came to my finances. And all other aspects of my life, I was really considering what I was doing, but this I kind of did on autopilot. And that just meant I was doing what the average American does, eating out a lot, just kind of spending money wherever, extra subscriptions, just going wild, going crazy, right? So anyway, but the purpose of this video right now is really to get into what's that mistake that I may have made. Guys, help me out with this. Tell me if this is something that you would do. Would you consider this a mistake, or would you in fact consider this a positive? I'm glad I'm doing it, but at the same time, I'm like, does this count? Should I add an extra category? Should I be less fluid or more fluid? I don't know. Tell me what you think. All right, so here's the deal. Many of you know that there was indeed a hurricane that happened in Jamaica, and this hurricane devastated the area. I'm half Jamaican. My grandmother's sister actually still lives in Jamaica, and though she was in an area of highest devastation, she is an elderly woman, and she has no stove, no food, and a lot of other damage going on in her house. But obviously the main thing is making sure she has a literal roof over her head and she's able to eat something. So my grandmother said, hey, are you interested in sending some money to Jamaica? And I said, absolutely. Give me a couple of days. And okay, so some of you might be like, okay, what's the big deal? But I said I was only going to spend money on a few things, and this wasn't one of the categories I said I was going to spend money on, right? So should I be super rigid? What I did is I listened to my value set, and I said, you live a life through compassion. Though it wasn't on one of the categories you listed before, this is one of the best ways to show that compassion. And you said yes automatically, not because you felt pressured, but because you felt it in your heart, because you know that that's something that guides you. That idea of gratitude, you're grateful that you're able to help someone in some way, shape, or form. So I said, yes, I will send her $200. So my grandmother was like, wow, $200, she's going to be so happy. You have no idea what she's able to buy with that. And that for me was very significant, because honestly, before I would spend $200 going out to eat without blinking an eye. I would spend $200 buying my dog's toys and other nonsense. While this fidget doesn't cost $200, it sure starts to add up when you keep on buying cutesy little things like this. So the more cute things that you buy, like I bought myself a Squishmallow, all these little things that I just kind of did in my life, because honestly, we're blessed to live in this culture. Even if you're not rich, the average American has the ability to have access to credit, whether good or bad. You're able to buy things and just buy things and buy things. That's not only going to allow her to buy her stove, it's going to allow her to live a bit more comfortably than when I outlined in my other video that these are the areas I'm going to spend money in. I forgot something, and that's giving. Giving is essential to, honestly, being a human being to me. We give each other things all of the time. We have the choice to give each other something positive or something negative, but we're always in this push and pull in society. So we have that opportunity to do some things that can unite us or that can further divide us. So though I'm not rich and though I'm trying to save money for myself, I realize that, if I were in this exact situation, and in fact, I live in Florida, so definitely could be in a very similar situation, I wouldn't be in that exact situation because of the country that I live in, because I am also not on an island. So I have access to more things, and just by nature, at my poorest, I wasn't at the poorest that my family is in Jamaica, so I'm able to give something back, and that's something that I'm grateful that I'm able to do. So question, would you guys have done that very same thing? Comment below if that's something that you align with there. And in the same vein, I have actually been texting with a buddy of mine in Zimbabwe. I had the opportunity to meet him when I was on a trip to Zimbabwe on a teaching fellowship. And I had the opportunity to go to a deaf school there. And what's significant about being deaf in Zimbabwe is that you are actually treated like a pariah in society. You are isolated. If you are a child who's born deaf, there's a lot of misunderstandings. There's a belief that you are in fact cursed. And if you're cursed, chances are you're cursed because the mother is also cursed because she carried you in her womb. So therefore the mother and the child are kind of discarded in society. Other children are being told not to play with these children. And imagine just being in a life where you don't know how to communicate. If you're treated like an outcast in society, chances are you're not learning sign language. Your parents don't know sign language because they don't have that understanding, because their cultural beliefs tell them one thing versus treating, like, I don't know, it's just, there's a lot of cultural misunderstandings there, and everyone should be loved and everyone should be respected. I believe, regardless of your culture. And especially kids, like, there's no reason not to. But again, it's about learning. It's about helping each other learn. So anyway, I'm at this community here where they actually wrap around support services for all deaf children as well as early adults. So when you're looking at, like, in your 20s and the like. There are some kids who have never been able to have a conversation before. There is Zimbabwean sign, but that's not something that is taught in the school system because of that cultural belief of the curse and everything. These kids often, sometimes 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, will come here and not being able to communicate their entire life. Imagine how frustrated that they are. And then the parent comes in, usually the mother comes in and is just in tears and says, "Can you help me help my child?" Because over the years, she's been told by doctors, she's been told by the priest, she's been told by different religious leaders that their child has a curse and you just need to pray over it, or you need to cut their tongue and all these other things. So that is where I met my friend Bright. And Bright is indeed also deaf, and he's an adult, and he has overcome so many challenges in Zimbabwe because this is the current state of Zimbabwe with deaf culture. Imagine what it was like for him growing up. And he has this ability to communicate in a way that is amazing. He's able to connect with these kids and say, "There's nothing wrong with you." He's able to teach some different trades, and he's able to wrap around those services of love because he didn't necessarily have that same access growing up. So then at some point, I don't know his love story, but he would meet his wife, and his wife is also deaf, and they would have a child. And this child's name is Pearl. And Pearl is absolutely gorgeous. And they just found out that she has Down syndrome. And when they found this out, they were like, okay, we're going to take care of our child. And unfortunately, there's a lot of privatized education. Not everyone gets a chance to go to school. And especially considering if you're a student with special needs, you don't have the same access to schooling. There are schools that are far few in between, and the best of the best, you have to pay even more, and Bright doesn't have that kind of money. He lives in a more rural area, and it's hard to even consider traveling just to go look at some of these schools. Literally being able to get on some mode of transportation and get to look at some schools was something that was insurmountable for him. And so we've been talking about it, and we're trying to figure out a plan for her because there's this amazing school that they want to apply to for her. And I said, "How much is it just to literally go tour the school, do the interview, get some food, whatever you need?" And he's like, $70. Okay, I'll send you $70. Western Union him it without an issue. So that definitely aligns to my value set because honestly, I know that in the culture that we live in, all of our kids, I work in the education system, regardless of your disability, you are seen through public education. And that's not something that they have across the world. It's indeed a privilege for her to go to school, but it should be a civil right. But that's not the world that we currently live in. And the thing is, Bright said to me before, he was like, "I know what it's like to be a student with disabilities. I know what it's like for people to say you're not going to amount to anything. And that's not going to be my daughter. How can we make this happen? How can we help Pearl be that Pearl?" And she's absolutely gorgeous, and she's smart, and she deserves this ability. She deserves this right. So she's actually on her way to Harare nowish. I don't know. In Zimbabwe, the time is like 8 hours difference. So maybe they're on their way. He's going to text me and send me some pictures on their journey. And I'm super excited to see that. But this whole thing, the reason why I'm saying it is because I want to be honest with you. Yes, I've spent some money. I've spent $270 that I initially didn't intend on when I said I'm entering this low buy period. But it's because it's important. And I'm going to spend a bit more money because I'm going to help her pay for her first semester of school. And if you're interested in helping with this initiative, there's a link in the description below for the GoFundMe. You can donate any amount of money because honestly, $10 helps significantly. Consider, especially if you have a child with varying abilities, that here in the United States, or probably where you're from, that you have access to that public education that is provided for you. Though the systems may not always be perfect, but they're there. They're there at no cost. That would be super appreciated. Just so you have a frame of reference, to pay for a semester of school is like $400 when you consider some of the extra fees. It's $300 just for the basics, but all the other things start to add up. But when we consider I enter into these low buy periods and I look back and I look at all the money that we spent doing silly things, it's so worth it to change a child's life versus buy some nonsense. So I am continuing my low buy period. Let me know in the description below if you disagree and say, hey, you spent $270 that you didn't plan on, so you're out of the low buy period. Start over, scratch over from ground one. I have not gone out and spent a bunch of ridiculous money on anything else. I am not going back to Amazon, and I'm going to tell you guys some more about my steps. If you're interested in joining this low buy period with me and doing a low spend challenge, you'll actually see a link below for my community. Yes, I have a community of people to wrap around to support you as you're working through this goal. I'm also building out a course, and that course is going to be tailored to the cohort. So please join as soon as you can so that way you can get started on saving and living with a life with intention. Each and every day on this channel, we focus on living just 1% better. That's all we ask, because if you live 1% better, man, you're going to put that out into the world. You're going to change a lot for yourself and for those around you. If you live better with your money, you're actually going to change generations to come. I so believe in this, and that's why the community is 100% free. There's no cost. The only cost is your time. The community is 100% free because I believe in this mission. I believe in changing the generational wealth gap. Let's do it together. Be 1% better. Follow me for more.